G'day guys and gal, I'm not afraid to admit that I've shed some manly tears while reading Warhammer 40k books. You wouldn't think that stories about 7-foot tall superhumans kablamming a bunch of aliens would be able to do that, but here we are. Calling 40k a grimdark setting and then just leaving it at that does a massive disservice to it. It has everything: love, humor, action, and yes, some seriously sad moments that make you go, damn, that's real sad. Before we get started, life is good, but it can be better. Cheers to today's sponsor, Joology. The best way to quickly improve your life is to grab at the low-hanging fruit, the easy wins. And there's not many easier wins than employing a skincare routine. This does sound a bit goofy, especially coming from a male Warhammer nerd, but your dry, oily, pimpy, blotchy skin is actually pretty easy to treat with some basic care. Joology then makes things even easier by getting us to fill out a quick survey and bam! A custom skincare routine gets delivered to your door with easy to follow instructions. I've been using Joology for over a year now, and it works a treat. My skin is much less oily, and the dark circles under my eyes have been reduced to a point where I don't even get insecure about them anymore. Joology isn't just skincare. They also have a range of really nice smelling deodorants, washes, shampoos, and more. Everything you need to change the Warhammer fan hygiene stereotype. So to get a massive 70% off your skincare package, as well as 50% off an additional product of your choosing, then use my link and code Majorkill70 below. Honestly, the best physical discount on a product you'll pretty much ever get. Cheers to Joology for sponsoring this video. Today we'll go over 5 of the saddest moments in Warhammer 40k lore, detailing the moment and why it was so tragic. Let's get into it. The Istvan dropsite atrocity, that being the traitors' first open move of rebellion against the Emperor via them virus bombing the loyalist elements within their legions, was pretty fucked up by itself. Loyal sons getting genocided without explanation. Sucks megaballs. However, there was one moment during the initial atrocity that still moistens my eyes. As the loyal Death Guard were running to the bunkers, Captain Temida was ushering his men inside as the virus bombs began to burst overhead. He was accompanied by the dreadnought Huron Fal, who was demanding he enter the bunker as well. Temida did not want to leave the dreadnought outside to die by himself, but Huron said,
"I'm a fucking dreadnought, mate. The virus can't get in me."
However, it was too late. Temida had waited too long as he wanted to be the last to get into the bunker, and he was so shocked by what was happening. The virus began to take him as he fell to his knees. Huron picked him up and cradled his captain. It was then that Temida realized that Huron had lied. The dreadnought's armor had been breached in battle. The virus was within him as well. Huron had lied in the hopes that Temida would reach the bunker, as he knew his captain would rather die with him than get to safety. The two battle brothers argued for a moment, calling each other liars and fools, not in like a angry, salty way, but in a devastated way. They loved each other like only brothers could, and now their bodies were melting around them. However, Huron rejected this fate. They would not die by the virus bomb. He told Temida,
"We'll go together then, shall we?"
Carrying his captain, Huron ran away from the bunker and began overloading his reactor, creating a bright blimp on a dying world, probably the last beautiful thing that Istvan would ever see. Seeing Astartes be frozen with despair, holding on to whatever comfort they could in their final moments, was very full on to experience. Up until then, they had always been so stoic and unrelenting. Death was a part of their job and they gladly embraced it. But not here. They were powerless and alone, and that is really fucking sad. Demonic possession is pretty horrific. Even the best case, like Argortal and the Galvorbak, still sucks ass and is incredibly agonizing. So imagine the worst case. A demon enters your body, takes control, keeps you along as a conscious passenger, and then warps your flesh and bone to better suit its needs. All the while you hopelessly watch in agony. That was the fate of the Night Lord Captain Vandred, a highly decorated and respected captain who made a bad deal and suffered the worst form of possession. The demon took command of his warband and called itself the Exalted, using Vandred's memories and expert skills in void combat to maintain authority. Sirion, a Night Lord who had the power to sense fear, could always hear the screaming and terror of Vandred whenever he was near the Exalted. Vandred tried to break free and retake control of his body a few times, but the power of the Exalted was too great. When the Exalted and his ship was in massive danger, the Exalted panicked and began searching Vandred's memories to try and give him some kind of maneuver or strategy to save him. Instead, Vandred took this as an opportunity to launch his own attack, reclaiming control of his body for the first time in years. He voxed Talos and the other Night Lords who had escaped the ship, telling them that he intended on doing a fucking hectic suicidal maneuver that would kill him but take out a shitload of enemy ships, giving his warband time to escape. Talos told him that they would remember him, with Vandred replying, "I really hope you don't." As Vandred inputted his final course corrections into his ship, ensuring it would stay on its path, he tells the demon within him, "I hope this hurts, you bastard," as he allowed the demon to retake control at the last second. The demon dies screaming as the ship is annihilated, finally giving Vandred peace. This one is more of an emotional bittersweet moment. The Exalted had been such a dick for ages, but there was still a small sliver of Vandred within him that would manifest sometimes. Vandred was a very noble man, so it was very sad to see him fall so low, but also nice that he was able to control his own fate and his own final destiny, getting revenge against the monster that had imprisoned him with his own body for years. The Siege of Hell's Reach was an epic tale of fighting against all odds, last stands, and yeah, it was really fucking sad. During the siege, there was a guardsman called Andre, who despite the horrors of the siege, was in good humors and spirits. He had a crush on a fellow guardsman, but obviously it wasn't the time to go on a date. During the siege, he ended up losing contact with her in the mayhem. By the end of the siege, there was literally only a small handful of survivors, those who had fought in the chapel as it collapsed. Grimaldus was one, Andre another. As they are at the post-siege ceremony, honoring the dead, the two warriors encounter each other, and Andre cracks more jokes. Grimaldus admires the man and he wants to make jokes as well, but he's just too goddamn autistic. So instead he says, "Your friend, your love, did you find her?" Andre's smile turns fake and his eyes turn glassy. After a moment's hesitation he says, "Yes, I did find her." With just a few words, your heart breaks. Seeing a man who can crack jokes no matter what happens, no matter how many orcs he fights or kills, no matter how many mates he loses, he can keep smiling. But to see that man break on the inside just fucking hurts. After all he had done to save Grimaldus, do his duty and survive, he just couldn't get that happy ending, and that is sad. Back to the Night Lords, those tragic fucks. Uzas is a Night Lord who was looked down upon by his brothers due to the fact that he was in the process of falling to Khorne. As such, his brothers always gave him shit, with Talos even smacking the shit out of him on occasion when Uzas got too corny during pre-battle preparation. Whenever a Night Lord was to go down into the lower decks and massacre some servants and slaves, Uzas was always blamed. Uzas couldn't defend himself as he couldn't remember if he actually did it or not, assuming he did because Khorne likes that kind of shit. This caused a lot of issues for Uzas. He was forced to paint his gauntlets red, a sign of shame. His brothers kept him at arm's length, and most tragically of all, Talos ended up killing Uzas. Here's the sad twist. Uzas was not responsible for those massacres and murders. He didn't go down to the slave compartment to hunt innocent crew members. Whenever the influence of Khorne was overwhelming, he would go to the barracks, sit in a corner and whisper Khorne stuff to himself and then calm down. What actually was happening was that Sirion, one of Talos's best friends, had an addiction to fear and would hunt down and murder crew members to feast on it, before then blaming and even framing it on Uzas. Uzas realizes this and tells Sirion that he will tell Talos the truth about everything. You can see how hard Uzas is trying to keep the influence of Khorne at bay, and he's actually done a good job of it. Sirion then tries to kill Uzas to keep it a secret, but Uzas is a great warrior and knocks Sirion down. He then enters a berserk rage because, you know, fair enough. But before Uzas can kill Sirion, Talos runs over and stabs Uzas. As Uzas lays dying, Talos tells him that he is the worst excuse for a Night Lord ever. Uzas dies, with Sirion even quietly apologizing to him, knowing that he was the real piece of shit and Uzas was just a big enough fool to be used as a scapegoat. Sometimes there is no bittersweet or happy ending. Uzas died with his brothers thinking he was a mindless murdering idiot, a failure, when in reality he was one of the most strong-willed, loyal and honest out of all of them. R.I.P. Uzas. Finally, we have a moment that actually fucking shook me to my core. When the heresy broke out, Mars entered a civil war between the loyal Martians and the fucked up corrupted ones. The war ended in an epic final battle, where loyal knights, titans, Skitarii, and much more took on the hordes of these scrap code abominations. Every part of the final battle was both epic and sad. The loyal titans of the Legio Tempestus taking on the much larger Legio Mortis, and still managing to put in a great shift. The final charge of House Tyranus Tyrannus as their knights plowed into enemy lines with their sole goal of killing the enemy commander. The final sacrifice of Coriol Zeth. The epicness of the entire battle made the foundations for how emotional it got. See, as each loyal tech priest had their forges overrun, they would overload their reactors, creating a small nuclear blast. Coriol Zeth was in charge of the Magma City, the most impressive city on Mars and full of amazing technology that promised to ascend mankind into a new golden age. As she saw her fellow loyalist forges go up in a mushroom cloud on the horizon, she would say farewell to them, an unusual sentiment for a priest of the Mechanicum. Even when an evil assassin impaled her, she wasn't fucking done. She used her advanced knowledge of the noosphere, a light form wavelength that could be used to communicate, to lock up the assassin's joints before getting her servant, a person the assassin had previously lobotomized, to jump into a pool of lava holding the assassin. Fucking savage. As the last loyal titans fell and the charge of House Tyrannus ended, Coriol knew what she had to do. She had to release the magma and destroy everything. Her legacy, unrecoverable technology, her city. It was not allowed to fall into the hands of the traitors, yet she knew that this decision would permanently cripple mankind. But she did it anyway. The magma flowed forth, annihilating millions of traitor Skitarii and even taking out Legio Mortis' final titan, an Imperator. It also completely denied any edge to the enemy. If you were wondering why the Imperium was so fucking stagnant for 10,000 years after the heresy, it was because Coriol Zeth made the ultimate sacrifice to prevent a traitor victory. If the traitors got her tech, then the Imperium had no hope. It just shows how grimdark 40k is. If the heresy never happened or happened a few years later, mankind would be in a golden age. Zeth was so close to cracking the key, and it was all for nothing. You know when a book about a bunch of half cyborgs with next to no emotion is able to make you cry, that shit has gotten very, very sad. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then Patreon is the place to be, where there's not only a boatload of Battlemace 40 million hentai, but also a bunch of live action nude cosplays. Hit the subscribe button and hit the real subscribe button for more sad content. Join the Discord for more memes and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.